Hi, my name is Eric Ahlstrom, and I'll be introducing the next section. It's a presentation on invitation to collaborate on tribally driven research about landfills in rural Alaska. Excuse me. And it will be presented by Dr. Sylvia Lee, Paige Jordan, Dr. Anita Moore-Nall, Angel Ip, and Michelle Davis.
Well, hello, everybody. I think I have the privilege of opening up this session today. My name is Michelle Davis, and I serve as a tribal coordinator with US EPA Region 10. I'm joining you from the traditional homelands of the Kanik, Dena'ina, Athabascan people. I would like to say a warm hello. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I will ask you to join me in welcoming my colleague, Angel Ip.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Angel Ip, excited to join you all today. And part of EPA Region 10's Brownfields team, we really appreciate the opportunity to share information about our new research project initiative. We're especially excited today as it's our first tribal outreach on this project, and it's here at the Tribal Environmental Leaders Summit. And thank you so much to our talk and TELS team for making this all possible. Next slide, please. So Michelle and I have worked to amplify this need on research on landfills in rural Alaska and environmental sampling. EPA's Office of Research and Development has an internal research program with regions on top regional priorities. And this project is one of the agency's awarded Regional Sustainability and Environmental Science Program projects, which we'll be sharing about today. We've identified opportunities and built a team of collaborators and researchers for our initiative. You'll see the names of our internal and external team members on this slide. And most importantly for this project, our tribal collaborators, so potentially you. What you'll also see right now, we're joined by Anita, Sylvia, and Paige, who'll be sharing more about our project. Next slide, please.
So it's back to me for this one. And this is a quick overview of a regional applied research effort that was done in 2013. And we worked with the tribes in Fort Yukon, Alacac, White Mountain, Eek, and Ekwok to do water quality sampling and analysis, some soil sampling to identify chemical and microbial contaminants of concern that could potentially impact local drinking water sources. And I just want to acknowledge the message that Bill Hand has been sharing about thawing permafrost and the impacts on rural Alaska. We really have heard that message clearly and consistently. This project, the rare work, character of these 5 tribal communities, the tribes identified levels of different contaminants, collected information that helped the tribes to improve the landfill management for their communities. Then the final report was given to each tribal council, which summarized findings, the activity, and the recommendation based on approximately 3 years of collaborative research. That project was a lot of work, and it also showed how much more information is needed. And I'll put a link to it in the chat for everybody. And so now we'll go back to you, Angel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. Next slide, please. Tribes and tribal organizations have been leading work in improving waste management and innovations while also facing lots of unique challenges and limited resources. And over the years, we've heard that there may be several types of waste that are commingling with solid waste at some sites. The commingling of waste may open the door for transport of potential contaminants on soil and water resources. And we've heard from Alaska tribes on the need to have information on soil and water sources, including on surface water sources used as drinking water that may be near solid waste sites. So for this project, co-production of knowledge is central to our project, and tribes will be co-principal investigators of our project. Outside of research in partnership with tribes, state, federal, local entities, we have worked together in other aspects to provide technical assistance, trainings, and implementation over the years outside of the research. And these aspects may also be part of the project depending upon our tribal collaborators. That's a little bit about the motivations of how we are here today. And I'm just really excited to now turn over the presentation to Dr. Anita Moore-Nall on our team. Take it away, Anita.
All right, next slide, please. Thank you, Michelle and Angel. Hello, everyone. I am Anita Moore-Nall. I'm an enrolled member of the Apselica or Crow tribe from Montana, and I'm a geologist assisting with this project. I am also a postdoctoral ORISE fellow based out of the US EPA's Alaska Operations Office. So I am extremely grateful to be here today. And in this slide, I'll talk a little bit more about permafrost and its significance for this project. Just echoing things that Bill Hand had talked about earlier today. The top diagram depicts permafrost in areas where it is still stable with ice in the pore spaces which support the land. The lower diagram shows collapse and disruption of the land surface due to thawing of the ice, which holds the permafrost together. This is due to large-scale environmental change as the Earth is warming. Along coastal areas where sea level is rising because of a warming climate, the situation could increase saltwater intrusion, and because salt water lowers the freezing point, could also increase the rate of permafrost lost. This has implications for coastal ecosystems and communities that rely on permafrost for many things. For instance, permafrost provides an important layer of protection between waste in disposal sites and groundwater. In rural Alaska, there are over 150 active landfills, and many of these depend on permafrost as a liner against the transport of contaminants into traditional native lands and resources. So it is important to consider large-scale environmental changes, such as loss of permafrost due to climate change, when efforts to improve waste management are undertaken. Next slide, please. The future of near-surface permafrost is shown in these two modeled maps. One shows a projection of the near-surface permafrost coverage in Alaska in 2010 on the left. As temperatures increase, the yellow areas with less permafrost will increase. The map on the right shows this projected to the year 2050. In other words, more of the land will lose permafrost and the protection it provides from contaminant support. Next slide, please. For our anticipated timeline, we are beginning our outreach here at the 2022 Tribal Environmental Leaders Summit of Quayana. Thank you again for allowing us some time to connect with you. For the rest of 2022 and 2023, some things are still to be determined. We recognize there are still some uncertainties with the ongoing pandemic, and we'll have virtual training and collaboration options until it is safe to be together in person. During this time, we will be collaborating and gathering inputs with our community partners and tribes for the conceptual models, which will aid in developing an environmental sampling design specific to each community. Sampling will start after working with communities. Next slide, please. So we will use a co-production of knowledge and tribally driven research for our approach to this project. A definition of co-production of knowledge is the contribution of multiple knowledge sources, ways of knowing, and perspectives from different user groups with the goal of co-creating knowledge and information to inform management. Knowledge co-production means that research is conducted collaboratively, inclusively, and in a respectful and engaged manner, from the identification of research needs to study design, data collection, interpretation, and application, with the idea of creating actionable science, as in knowledge needed to enable change that inherently links theory and practice, and in making sure that research addresses the needs of our community partners. This will be done in 3 phases, basically. The first phase will be creating conceptual models and listening to tribes and using their input for how to construct these conceptual models based on their knowledge of their place. Sylvia will discuss this later. The second phase will be environmental sampling and data analysis, and the third phase would be sharing knowledges learned in ways that respect the wishes of our tribal and rural community partners. The project will evolve with specific needs of our partners, the specific sites and tribes we become partners with, and the time will also adjust to the needs of continuing the project. Next slide, please. So the diagram on the right is a conceptual model adapted after Cook et al. 2020, which was used to work with fisheries management. It shows the potential stages of co-production, emphasizing that the process is one that ideally operates in a cyclical manner and that involves continual listening, reflection, and adaptation. It's hard to read the colored fish, and it's not really necessary, as this is an example, and I'll walk you through it. For our project, the number 1 roughly corresponds with the red fish and the yellow fish, which in this model represent identifying partners and building relationships. It's here that we welcome self-nominations to join this project and want to build a long-lasting relationship with you as research partners. The number 2, the green fish, represents assess current knowledge and plan. We will develop and use conceptual models as one approach to assess our collective current knowledge, both tribal and Western science. The number 3, blue fish, represents generating new knowledge. We will develop our research questions and plan on how we can generate new knowledge that will be useful for both tribes and Western scientists. And number 4, the purple and pink fish, represent communicate findings and apply knowledge. We will apply the new and traditional knowledges to develop final products that best support best management of waste disposal sites. Next slide, please. In this slide, these boxes will describe some principles of tribally driven research. In number 1, tribal needs come first. All stages of research, questions, methods, and final products are designed with input from tribal partners. In number 2, tribal data sovereignty. Tribes have full control over data collection, use, sharing, and ownership. The data will be contributed and given to the tribes upon completion of the project. Project results will be carefully compiled into detailed reports so that they can be returned to communities, as each community will have information and research portfolios. Number 3, being inclusive. Deliberately create space for all perspectives and ideas, with emphasis on tribal knowledge. And number 4, building and maintaining relationships. Clearly define roles and responsibilities in project plan and communicate early and often with tribes and partners. And co-production of knowledge, number 5. Tribal partners provide input at all stages, receive training, and participate in data collection and analysis. Next slide, please. So our potential upcoming outreach for this project will include additional conferences, meetings, and workshops, EPA Region 10 tribal coordinators and communications, including the tribal newsletter, Region 10 Tribal Operations Committee, and other dedicated and individualized research outreach. We look forward to establishing and continuing a long side-by-side working relationship with you as partners for this important project. Your thoughts and suggestions are welcome. You can put them in the chat or you can email me, as I will be the main point of contact to reach out to with any questions and to express your interest. Koyana, thank you again, and I will let Sylvia introduce herself and continue to explain more about the project. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Anita, and hello, everyone. I'm Sylvia Lee. I'm an aquatic ecologist, biologist with EPA's Office of Research and Development, which is based in Washington, D.C. And on the slide here, we're showing several key questions that we'll use as starting points in our co-production of knowledge approach for the project. These questions are, what are the potential contaminants and their concentrations at landfills and disposal sites? How might these contaminants move across or through the land, water, and air, especially with climate-related changes in the environment, such as the loss of permafrost, liners, and erosion of land near disposal sites? But most importantly, we can modify these questions and tailor them to answer the question about what are your specific environmental and health concerns. And one way we can better understand the bigger picture while capturing the important details that go into answering these key questions is by using conceptual models, which I will explain more about a bit later. Next slide, please. So in phase one of our research project, we'll be working on creating partnerships with you, members of tribes and rural communities, as well as defining the roles and responsibilities of team members and partners so that everyone can agree upon them and are comfortable with it, to make it possible to conduct research that is tribally driven in all of the ways that Anita had described earlier. We will develop and tailor these conceptual models based on traditional knowledges and the scientific literature to understand pathways of contaminant movement in Alaska, as well as to identify knowledge gaps. We'll then use the conceptual models to inform research in phase two. Next slide, please. So what are conceptual models? There's an example shown here. They are simply a visual way to understand the connections and relationships between entities and processes in the world around us that provide a structure for organizing our current knowledge, which includes what we think we know and what we don't know. So these conceptual models helps us find gaps in knowledge, as well as to prioritize what kind of data we need to collect to fill those knowledge gaps. And it's important to know that we can continue to modify these conceptual models as we learn new information, learn more about those original instructions, and something our team has not had the opportunity to work on before is on how to modify these conceptual models to better reflect traditional ecological knowledges. And that's going to be a really important part of phase one. And finally, another benefit of using these conceptual models is that it gives us a way to organize and present the results of our research and the new knowledge that we will co-develop and co-produce. The picture on this slide is an example of a very simplified conceptual diagram. We got a comment here to expand the air box, definitely. There's a lot of details that are missing here, but this is just meant to show the major environmental processes involved in our project to answer those key research questions I presented earlier. You can see that the waste here is at the top, the main source of contaminants, the main stressor, but climate and loss of permafrost may be increasing this contaminant transport, leading to the endpoints, including contamination of oil, water, soil, water, and perhaps even traditional resources like salmon. And this is also a gentle introduction to a much more detailed conceptual diagram on the next slide, please. So here's a much more detailed diagram. We are more specific about the different kinds of waste and different types of disposal sites, leading to more specific contaminants that could be of concern to you. The endpoints at the bottom are still mostly the same, but these could be more detailed as well. You can see we added air contamination here on this diagram, which may be of interest to some tribes and communities. But what I again want to emphasize is that this conceptual model is based on Western science, and the relationships you see here are shown very linear, which may not be the best way to reflect traditional ecological knowledges. And we would love to work on transforming this conceptual model or creating a whole new model altogether that's more holistic and respectful of traditional relationships to nature and more accurately reflects the experiences of our partners from communities who are living with the realities we're trying to learn more about in order to develop solutions. We would like to learn which stressors or pathways may be missing, especially those we have not been able to find in the Western scientific literature. And finally, these conceptual models can serve as a starting point for learning which parts of the diagram are most important to our co-production research partners to help us prioritize data collection in phase 2. So I'll pass it on now to my colleague Paige to tell us about phase 2.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sylvia. Next slide, please. And thank you. And thank you all for your time today. I'm Paige Jordan, a water quality scientist with EPA's Office of Research and Development based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm extremely honored and excited to be here today. So as Sylvia and Anita previously alluded to, the second part of this project focuses on collecting environmental samples in and around your landfill to quantify your concerns expressed and prioritized in that conceptual modeling phase 1. We envision providing training on how to sample and then collecting soil, sediment, and water samples together to be shipped off for analyses. Sampling days will be time-consuming and labor-intensive, but the results and analyses will be shared with you, and we will collaborate together to develop best management practices and adaptation strategies for the future based on your individual sampling results. Next slide, please. And then as far as deliverables go, as mentioned earlier, we recognize there are differences between Western knowledge and traditional knowledge. And that being said, we really do want to create something together, something that is meaningful and useful for you now and into the future. These proposed deliverables on the slide are by no means concrete, and especially since so much is dependent on the findings in phase 1 and the sample results in phase 2. So please keep that in mind as you consider participating in our project, which I really do hope you consider. Next slide, please. Wonderful. Okay, and thank you all very, very much for your time today. I think we might have a couple minutes for questions.
Just a reminder, you can enter your questions into the chat box, as well as click on reactions and raise your hand.
This is Mansell Nelson with the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals. And I've already put in the chat concerns about air quality, and I saw it mentioned briefly in one of the slides, but we work on air quality in the Alaska communities, and one of the issues we definitely see is trash burning. We've been trying to educate people to move trash burning away from their homes to the landfill, but even at the landfill, there can be issues with burning items that really shouldn't be burned, and also burning when the wind carries the contaminants back into the community. So we'd be happy to assist with expanding investigations into air quality issues and how they're impacting the community from burning practices. And I'd like to recommend that you expand that part of your project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mansell. Yeah, we are very much thinking about air quality for phase 1, and with the resources we have for phase 2, we're able to do soil, water, sediment sampling. But yeah, let's follow up chat, and great to hear about all the resources from Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals on air quality sampling.
So maybe, Angel, I could add a little bit on that too. So right now, Mansell, we're in the process where the tribes who might like to participate in the project will self-nominate. And we'll be sending out more information about that, but maybe we can talk about having, broadening participation to the program that you're working with the using the purple air sensors at the landfills. There might be some really good opportunities there, but right now for us, the self-nomination process is going to be really that's our focus right now. And I think that what you're offering is just amazing, and really we could make some great connections. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. And just something to note for the tribes that are thinking about would like to be involved in this process. When we were working with White Mountain, Allakaket, Eek, Ekwok, and Fort Yukon, the tribes stayed involved in the process for the whole length of the project. We had regular team meetings. It was so great having the folks in the community in every team meeting. It was a commitment of time for sure, but at the end of it, it was wonderful having that involvement right from day one. It helped us set the sampling schedule. It helped us choose what analytes we were going to look at. It helped in every step of the process. And so for those tribes that are considering, becoming part of this, we will send out in the tribal newsletter the process, the applications. It was a multi-year project, and it was actually really kind of great. As a team, we worked very closely together. We had the pleasure of working with Etta from the last, Etta, who's currently with Yukon River Intertribal Watershed Council. So, just keep an eye for more outreach and think about, is this something that your tribe might like to be involved with? But it is a time commitment for sure, in a good way.